We the people. We the people. One person, one vote. Doesn't matter what your race is, what your sex is, what your income is. That's such a radical, radical concept. One person, one vote. We are all equals. That's embedded in the soul of this country. And as Reverend Barber said, when you go after the vote, you're going after the soul of our nation. You're going after the soul of our democracy. And that's why we are fighting so hard. Because you're trying to tell us we are nothing. There's no respect at all. Nothing. Your voice counts for nothing. Let me just give you some numbers here and why. And let me also echo that. You know, North Carolina, the last time we had robust voter engagement, people really engaged in politics, all those citizens who were able under the law to vote, was back in the 1880s when we did have this fusion movement of white and black. It was white Republicans largely, or black Republicans, white populists. The turnout in elections was 75–80% of the eligible vote. I'm kidding. This is where we could have been had not the Democrats at that point. The Democrats, white Democrats with red shirts, the KKK, they brought in the Wilmington Massacre, 1898, and they brought in the literacy test, they brought in the grandfather clause, they brought in the poll tax. That's what shoved our voter participation from the 1900s on through the entire 20th century. North Carolina was down at the cellar. We were in the bottom 10 states for voter turnout throughout the entire 20th century. It really was not until 2000. I'm telling you, I got the numbers here. I can tell you that we were ranked 46th, 44th, 47th in the 1980s. Even when the so-called, hot Jesse Helms were still in the bottom 10 for voter turnout. Because people were told that voting is about the boss man. Let the boss man do the voting. You just shut up and go to work. And if you don't like the work, there's the door. We got another one to take your place. That's the kind of respect that people got. Now, and it was not until really 2000 we finally got up into the ranking in the 30s. We're still in the bottom 15 states. And early voting came into place in 2000. 2004 we ranked about 36th or something. It wasn't until 2008 that we got into the top 25 states in the nation, top half. We ranked 22nd in 2008 because we had early voting and we had same-day registration. In 2012, we ranked 11th in the country, the top dozen states. We got from all the way to the bottom to the top dozen states in the year 2012 for turnout. And now what is happening is not the Democrats this time who came, as soon as they got it back into power, they immediately put in all these laws to suppress the vote. Now we got the Republicans doing the same thing. And they're going after, and who are they going after? Same group. African Americans is the #1 targeted audience. They are rigging the elections through suppressive measures designed to target specific groups. And African Americans, through the ID and getting rid of same day, are the two biggest tools that they want to get rid of. The Board of Elections matched up the registered voters to those who have a driver's license in North Carolina. Okay, they took the registration rolls, the DMV rolls, and matched them up. And they did this in March of this year. There were 318,000 registered voters who did not have a driver's license, didn't show up. And get this now, African Americans are 23% of the registered voters at that time in March of 2013. 23% of the registered voters are African American, but they're 34% of the registered voters who don't have an ID. In other words, they're less than a quarter of the registered voters, but more than a third of those who don't have an ID. That's where they're going after. Women are more than half of the registered voters. We know that. If all the women got together, spoke together, 54% of the registered voters are women. 64%, almost 2/3 of those who don't have an ID, government photo ID from the state. 64% are women. So that's what. And then the other, early voting. Early voting is not a Democrat or Republican thing. When it first came in, the Democrats put it in. They thought it was, the Republicans fought it because they thought it was, well, it turned out not to be. In 2010, a hot Republican year, Republicans used early voting more than the Democrats. Early voting helps the group of voters who are enthusiastic about voting. They go there and they vote. They use that tool. It has nothing to do with the partisan. So, but yet they're talking about eliminating. Now, same day, again, it's not that big an advantage on partisan wise, but for African Americans, it is a tool that has helped African Americans participate in elections more than whites in general. So again, now this is going back to 2012. African Americans at that time were 22% of the registered vote, 22% of the registered voters, but they were 34% of those who used same-day registration. Wow. Of all the people that used same-day, 34% were African American. Youth, the same thing. So I'm just saying that these folks, they're not dumb about how they want to suppress the vote. They're going after surgically trying to suppress votes, and we are watching them, and we think it's abhorrent. It's a crime against democracy.
Yes.
Rigging the elections is a crime against democracy, and we must not let it prevail.